the president set to chair Jubilee's National Executive Council meeting to endorse changes in the parliamentary leadership that have seen Deputy President William Ruto's allies lose their positions. What do you think we should expect with this meeting, Barrack?
I think it's a fair fait accompli, as we say. The die is cast. It has been cast for a while now. The Jubilee supremacy battle goes on, and I think just now it's the president calling all the shots as far as the present formations go. So I do think that it's just going to be a matter of rubber stamping the whole process. You know what, Leah? When you whip Parliament in State House, you do not expect to see anything coming out except what the chief resident at State House expects. So they have been summoned to Ikulu, and tomorrow, Thursday, is going to be what Ikulu wants.
You know, Barrack, when you look at this story, Father, talking about the hard stance that the party is taking against disloyalty was evident, well, yesterday. And this is when 3 senators who failed to attend the party's meeting at State House 2 weeks ago, defended themselves before the disciplinary committee. What do you make of this issue of disloyalty in Jubilee Party, Barrack?
First, you know, words have value. They are loaded with value. When we talk about disloyalty, we start gravitating towards the territory of treachery, that there is something that borders on high treason, that the instruments of the party have assembled, and that they have taken certain stance, and that you have another formation somewhere, maybe another party that has taken a different stand, and therefore you are not voting with your party, and you can be said to be disloyal to the party. It is very difficult, and I reminded you earlier on that I also speak as some kind of party honcho, if you want, that within the same party, there are different voices, but we have not been given the issue. If you ask what is the issue in Jubilee that they are differing about, that you can say who is their competitor, and you can say that there are some people who are disloyal, that they are working in cahoots with outsiders to defeat the party, then the element of disloyalty comes in. So I think let us talk about dissent. At least as journalists, let us not fall in the trap of using terminology that has been put in place for us by other forces, and we just flow with that tide. So let us say that in Jubilee, the head of the party, who is also the head of state, is stemming dissent. He doesn't want to hear alternative voices. And I think we are seeing the same in other political parties elsewhere, that there will only be one voice. And you either toe the line or you are shown the high road to nowhere.
So it's more like sheep. You better be ready to sheep out if at all you don't sing to the tune. Well, let's just look at this story on page 3, Barrack. The headline reads, "With NASA dead, parties are free to seek new alliances," says Raila. Further to this story, Barrack talks about, with the National Super Alliance dead, the Orange Democratic Movement will be seeking new parties ahead of the 2022 general election. What are we looking at here? This issue of looking for new parties. What are we seeing?
I think let us first begin by accepting to call hypocrisy by its rightful name. That you cannot have it both ways and sit comfortably with your conscience. I want to believe that maybe the ODM leader, Raila Odinga, has been quoted out of context, that he has been misquoted. I wouldn't want to believe that he has suggested for a moment that NASA is dead, because I'm aware that this Sunday, the 28th, I think it's going to be, Raila Odinga has asked for a meeting of NASA members of parliament at Francis Atwoli's residence in Kajiado, where they are going to discuss NASA issues. He has invited Ford Kenya MPs, he has invited Wiper Democratic Movement MPs, ANC MPs, ODM MPs, and Chama cha Mashinani MPs. They are meeting on Sunday. We have seen the full program of what they are going to do, what they are going to discuss, including parliamentary leadership, and then crown the whole thing with lunch. Now, you cannot be doing that, sending out those messages telling people come to this NASA parliamentary group meeting, and you are also using the same mouth that is summoning these people to say that NASA is dead. Of course, it's not even anything that anyone would cry about, but I would be expecting that if Raila Odinga thinks that it's time to dispense with NASA, he should write formally to the Registrar of Political Parties to say that we are no longer in NASA. And once 3 parties have written to the Registrar of Political Parties to say that they are withdrawing, NASA will be dead. And perhaps that would be the best thing for those who are speaking like that to do, so that the way ahead defines itself. But in a brief, I think all these political formations are going to be looking for new partnerships elsewhere. In certain cases, they are likely to be renewing relationships, perhaps forgiving each other for the sins they have committed against one another, and finding ways and means of continuing to work together, because the voting patterns in the country are patterns that define themselves along ethnic lines, ethnic colleges, if you want, ethnic voting colleges. And each of these colleges, unfortunately, tends to find formation around an ethnic community. And so the numbers that you are talking about are the same numbers. And so I see that all these political parties will, in the fullness of time, be groping towards one another and saying, oh, we can work together better this time than we did the last time.
Barrack, even as we talk about some of these parties talking about working together, further to this story, talks about ODM leader Raila Odinga not being committal, Barrack, on his party's plan to strike a deal with President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee. However, according to this story, Father, it says that he explained that such discussions have not been put on the table. Is this true, really? Because we have heard of such discussions having taken place. Well, we could speculate, but have such discussions taken place, if you may know?
Raila himself keeps on telling us that if you hear a dog barking, find out who it is barking for. And I think that until a few weeks ago, you could see that his lieutenants were active all over the place. They were very excited, saying that President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga were in full-blown discussions, and the government of national unity was in the offing. Certainly people like Junet Mohammed have been quoted in that regard, John Badi, James Orengo. And on the other side, we have also seen people like Wambugu Ngunjiri, people like David Murade. They're talking about government of national unity. We have seen Francis Atwoli, who is the matchmaker, talking about the same. So when we start hearing today people saying that no, there's not going to be anything like that, I think it is just possible that they are hitting a brick wall, and therefore you start hearing different kinds of vibes. And that hitting of the brick walls became very apparent about 3 weeks ago, when ODM MPs, quite uncharacteristically in recent times, took the Jubilee government on head-on in Parliament. You remember when they were asking questions like, what kind of government is this that is not taking proper care of the citizens' interests and so on. I think it was at that moment that things would seem to have hit a wall. I also suspect, I'm not 100% sure, but I have reason to suspect that Raila Odinga possibly had told President Uhuru Kenyatta to not mind about the rest of this NASA affiliate parties. I will bring them along. Don't worry about talking to them. Those ones are under my wings, so we'll come along, and they will come along. And I think the moment other people like Mudavadi and Wetangula started indicating that their parties were not going to be part of any GNU, I do think that that is the moment that things began falling apart. Leah, I am speculating, I'm not giving you a factual report. I'm speculating.
It's okay, Barrack. Thank you, Barrack. Well, I just want us to move away from politics and let's look at page 4 of the Daily Nation still, Barrack. There's a headline here that's reading, traffic jam eases after police remove protesting truckers. This story basically talking about a traffic snarl-up that stretched for more than 50 kilometers from the Kenya-Uganda border at Malaba, which started easing yesterday. This is after police forcibly removed truckers who had down their tools, citing harassment in Uganda. This has been a developing story, Barrack. There's concern at the border. Basically, some truckers feeling that they're being harassed. We've even read of stories where they're being, called certain names that sound a little bit discriminative. Talk about someone calling you ulem to a corona. Barrack, what should be done, to really take care of this situation before it goes out of hand?
The people of East Africa have got historically the misfortune of being led by people who do not seem to understand what is best for the East African citizens, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania especially. And in recent times, our other brothers and sisters who have come on board, Rwanda, Burundi, and South Sudan. Because once you have a challenge of the kind that this virus has brought and other challenges, the people of East Africa have got a proper forum that you would have expected that the leaders were going to use. A lot of the things that are happening should be being processed through the East African community, because this is the umbrella organization that is ready-made, where when there are headaches, the treatment of those headaches ought usually to be processed within that forum. And you see that those of us who, as you say, in the sphere of punditry, political writing, and public opinion, we opined quite a long while ago that the regional heads needed to come together. Instead, what you saw was that like everywhere else, everyone retreated to their own cocoons. They thought they would solve issues in isolation. And hence, Kenya has had a tiff with Tanzania. Tanzania has tiffed with Kenya. Kenya seems to be having a subterranean tiff with Uganda. Uganda is tiffing with Kenya. And they need to stop those kinds of childish games and get together using avenues, even such as we are using now, to discuss and process these things. Uganda is going nowhere on its own. Kenya is going nowhere on its own. Kenya needs Uganda as much as Uganda needs Kenya. And these are things which ought to have been sorted out. When we talk about the border, finally, Leah, and we are talking about 50 kilometers. 50 kilometers from that border, if it is true that it's 50 kilometers, because I've not been there, 50 kilometers is going probably all the way up to Webuye. From the Kenya-Malaba border and even beyond. So either we are being treated to hyperbole, reportorial hyperbole by ourselves as journalists and writers, or we are dealing with a very serious situation. So let the leaders use the forums that do exist and help sort out these issues.
Well, I don't know, Barrack, going by the picture that's supporting the story here, you might actually question. Perhaps it might be true, you never know, Barrack. It might be actually 50 kilometers going by the picture that we have supporting the story. But you know what, Barrack, I think even one of the other concerns is the fact that, I think you've even mentioned it, the truckers have to go through tests over and again. And I think according to this story, the truckers have so far been advised to get tests done at least 24 hours before. Do you think this is a workable solution?
It is not a workable solution, Leah. And when we talk about the truckers being told to take the test 48 hours before they go across, it is the case, the proverbial case of cutting your nose to spite your face. The governments on both sides behave almost as if they don't need those truckers, that those truckers are acting independently for purposes of their own welfare. In point of truth, these truckers are some of the few sectors that are involved actively in keeping what is left of the East African economy alive and vibrant. And so to the extent that you are keeping them stuck at that border there, and there are others who are still traveling from Mombasa, you are contributing to the worsening of the economic situation in the region, in the three countries involved here. In fact, I suspect there are four. It is Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, and sometimes I think there's even the Eastern DRC in the process. It is in the interest of the regional governments, if they have been talking about economy, to make sure that the little blood life that is left within the economy is flowing. Here is a situation where literally they have stopped the flow of the economic bloodline within the region. And then you keep these gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen at the border for 7 days. What are they doing during these 7 days? Who are they mingling with? Mm-hmm. If they have come carrying the bag in their systems, are they not spreading that bag within the region? Who is policing them? Mm-hmm. Is it possible that those who arrived without the bag are picking it up from their colleagues at the border? Sometimes I wonder what kinds of people are employed to think for our governments in this region, in Kenya, in Uganda. This problem of the appointing authorities looking for people whom they consider to be politically correct and whom they consider to be their friends and relatives is wrong. People should be appointed on the basis of competence, that they can ask disturbing questions and ask power those questions and advise power correctly before things get out of hand, like they are likely to do. I think we are just incubating the bag in the border areas. We are incubating this bag in Malaba, in Busia, and it's a question of time before the entire West Kenya region is hit hard, and that thing could spread very fast to the entire Lake Basin region, and before you know it will be discovering its way back to Nairobi and to other places. We don't play with those kinds of things.
Indeed, Barrack. Barrack, I look at the People Daily on the front page. The headline reads, "Skip Uhuru meeting at own peril. MPs told," basically talking about 2G warnings, stern action will be taken against members of the National Assembly who failed to attend the Jubilee party event expected to be convened by the president next week. Looking at what has been happening, Barrack, do you think anyone will dare to fail to attend this meeting?
I don't think so. If it were the old days when we had one party, KANU, I expect that Martin Shikuku, George Anyona, I expect that Kasim Mwanzandi and Mashengwa Machofi Charles Rubia would stay away, James Orengo of those years, not the new James Orengo that we have today. I think they would all stay away because these were principled people who understood why they had gone into leadership. But we are now talking about a house that with the most preponderant respect to the members, the majority of them are basically rent seekers. They are not concerned about the welfare of the country, the growth of democracy, and so they are going to turn up. I think what we need to be addressing a lot more fundamentally, the rest of us, is the derogation of the democratic practice that we are seeing ourselves right back, and Leah have been around long enough. When Jomo Kenyatta died in 1978, I was in Form 6, a heartbeat away from the university. I went to the University of Nairobi the following year as a first year in 1979. And I can tell you without any fear of contradiction, and speaking as an elder now and with the authority of an elder, that we have been through this before. That this is how it begins when you want to unleash autocracy on society. You begin with muzzling the legislators. Parliament is captive. Parliament, when members are taking the oath of office, they say that, and I will work conscientiously, by which they mean that I will be governed by my conscience. And if your conscience is telling you don't go to that meeting, you should stay away. You do not have to go because you think that they are going to expel you from the party. Maybe if they expel you, you are going to lose your seat in parliament. You are going to face the electorate again. You're going to have problems with the loans. You have taken car loan here, housing loan there, don't know whatever there. And so the executive is holding these people in a bad place, and they are clinging in pain, and they will go because this is now what we call the dictatorship of the executive through the political party. Majority will turn up. A few fellows like the Nandi governor, the Nandi senator, the Kericho senator, and maybe just a few others may be willing to bite the bullet and stay away, but majority are likely to turn up. The bad news for President Kenyatta is that he doesn't really have these people under his grip. There are people who are coming under duress. Okay. And come the end of the life of this parliament, he will be shocked how the birds will fly and how fast they fly.
Okay. Well, Barrack, my director tells me our time is up, but I just want us to look briefly at this story on page 8 of the People Daily, talking about we will cater, that's a headline, reading, we will cater for COVID-19 treatment cost, says the state. This story basically, Barrack, is talking about the government assuring that it will cater for the cost of treating COVID-19 patients in public hospitals. There's 62 more cases, 62 rather, more people tested positive for the disease. Could you say this is good news for the country? Because I know that, Kenyans have been decrying the whole idea of meeting the cost.
It is a positive development. It is indeed what the government should have done from the very outset. It is what the Public Health Act says. But the whole thing was mismanaged. Government started the whole isolation and quarantine process in a manner that treated the people who had contracted the virus, and including those who had not contracted the virus, who are just suspected to have the possibility of having contracted the virus because they were coming from overseas. They were being treated almost as if they were the enemies of the country. They were being screamed at. They were being told you are going to be tested. and you're going to be quarantined at your own cost, in spite of the fact that billions of shillings are being collected from a wide range of places. One would have expected that they would have gone, some of them at tenor towards that kind of obligation. It is good that government is now talking about that, but it's talking about it when it has already frightened the citizens, and you can see that even those who turn out positive results then begin running away. We have seen that they are giving false information. Abraham Lincoln said again and again that if you will have someone follow you, you must convince them that you are their genuine friend and that you mean well. This government has failed to do that. It needs to get its public relations into overdrive so that it can win back citizens. The numbers are increasing at an alarming and frightful pace. One only hopes that they could actually get arrested. Thank you, Leah.
Oh, very much. It's always a pleasure to have you on this show, Barrack, Muluka, giving us insight into some of the stories that are making headlines across the local scene and, of course, globally. Thank you so much, Barrack, for making time, and we appreciate you.
Most welcome. I also appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Well, that has been a look at the dailies with Barrack Muluka, who is a writer in politics. I want us to just take a look a little bit at the roads and just see what's happening there. Before we take a break, I know my director tells me we're running out of time, but I just want us to look at some of the roads and what's happening there. I know that of late the roads have seemed to be very clear, but let's just look at Kenyatta Avenue here. The roads seem to be fairly clear, just a little bit of traffic, especially when you are approaching the roundabout just there along Kenyatta Avenue. Valley Road looks extremely clear, surprisingly also, because it's always having traffic, especially in the morning. Look at Ngong Road, which, as I will always say, it's always jammed with traffic, and we're seeing here that the road is fairly clear. There's just slight traffic, especially when you're coming from town. That's the NCBD. And of course, let's just look at one of the roads that many of you have to use to access the Central Business District. We're seeing here Uhuru Highway has slight traffic just nearby Bunyala Road, and we're seeing it's just traffic actually just when you're approaching the roundabout at Bunyala Road. And of course, going forward, when you're approaching the City Square roundabout, there's still a little bit of traffic, especially when you're going into the Nairobi Central Business District. Not so much traffic at this moment, but Gathaway also looks fairly clear. I mean, doesn't look so bad, by the way. Langata Road, we know Langata Road for having so much traffic in the morning. The roads seem fairly clear. Very little traffic here when you're approaching the roundabout that connects to the Mbagathi Way. And I think most of the roads here, they're looking really good. We cannot say there's much traffic. Seems like most of you will have a good time on the roads today. Let's just look at Ngara area. Of course, also there, we know sometimes there's a little bit of traffic, but it seems fairly clear. The roads don't look so bad, and seems like you'll have an easy time to where you're going. That's in case you're flying through the routes that I've actually mentioned, and that, anyway, they're usually key to accessing the Nairobi Central Business District. Well, right now, let's just take a break. Remember, we have a lot lined up for you. We are coming back with a look at some of the other stories making headlines. We'll get an in-depth look. I'll be with Joy Mdivo, who is an advocate of the High Court, to help us understand some of these stories. And of course, in our lifestyle segment, we have something that you do not want to miss. You may want to stay on until the end, so I will not even tell you what it is. So don't go too far. We'll be back shortly.